Leslie Green Smith, and on this segment of Pinellas Past, we'll be taking a look at Black history. Dr. Carter G. Woodson was a Black historian, scholar, and also the founder of the Association for the Study of Black History and Life. On February 7, 1926, Woodson established Negro History Week. Then, during the struggles for civil rights in the 60s, and also in the growing Black awareness of the 70s, Negro History Week became Black History Week and then Black History Month as people took more and more time during February to find out about Blacks. Nowadays, all Americans take February to reflect on the contributions of Black men and Black women. They've all made important and significant contributions to the growth and development of America. Now let's visit with two young Americans who are curious about their Black heritage.
We can begin to put some of these things together.
Miss Love, me and Rolanda were just talking about Black history, and I told her I wanted to learn more about this.
Isn't that interesting? They were just talking about Black history. We were just talking about Black history also. We're going to be doing a blackboard for my class, and we're trying to include some of the people that we'd like to include on it. What would you like to know about Black history?
Some famous people.
As a matter of fact, the focus of my bulletin board is going to be on national Black people and what they've done here in America. People like Phyllis Wheatley. Have you heard about Phyllis Wheatley?
No.
These are some of the things we were learning about her, and it says here in this article that Phyllis Wheatley says she grew up and became one of the best-known poets of her time. She was taught to read and to write by her slave's wife, and that she was a Black woman and was dearly loved for all of her poetry, and that President George Washington loved her very much because of all the things that she had to do and the things that she had to share. Another person we were thinking about, Stephanie and I, included on our bulletin board, was Frederick Douglass. You know much about Frederick Douglass?
No.
Well, it says here that Frederick Douglass was a leading abolitionist and that he didn't believe in bondage. It says, formerly known as Frederick Bailey, his slave name, he changed his name after he escaped. It says he wasn't satisfied with freedom just for himself. He found other white abolitionists. Do you know what I mean when I say abolitionists?
Against slavery.
Right. Other people who were against slavery and bondage. Douglass made his first talk with the Anti-Slave Society meeting in 1841. He told of his life as a slave. Douglass became an orator for the cause of freedom. He published a paper called the North Star. He was a great public figure for 50 years. He counseled with President Lincoln. Douglass became one of the leaders of the Republican Party, and he was made a United States Marshal, later appointed the Recorder of Deeds for the District of Columbus. Douglass wasn't just active with Black people, though. It says he was active with other people. What other people do you think he may be active with?
Women.
Right, women. It says he was the only man of any color to stand up on the floor and defend the rights of women on the ballot, that they should be equally with all men. Something else it says about Douglass, during the Emancipation, Douglass demanded no special privileges for Black people, but the freedom of action that he felt every citizen should have. His attitude was this, and I think I kind of like it. It says, I quote, "I am your fellow man, but not your fellow slave." That's pretty neat, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Who else do you think we can include on our bulletin board, Stephanie?
Harriet Tubman.
That sounds good to me. You know much about Harriet Tubman?
Yes.
Oh, she's one of my favorite. When I was your age, I used to learn and read books about her all the time. It says, like Douglass, she devoted her life to the cause of freedom. It says, and after the war, to the advancement of her people. It says she was never taught anything but the whip. What do you think means she was never taught anything but the whip?
She was taught right.
No, I'll share with you, a lot of times the slaves were not taught how to read and write, and Douglass was taught, and Phyllis Wheatley was taught, but she wasn't, and she was taught by the whip, and she was beat. It says, struck on her head, and I understand she had a big scar over her eye. It says, with an iron, and almost died. She was scarred for the rest of her life. The reason she was hit upside her head, too, and I heard a story, I remember reading in this book that she didn't do very much to help this overseer to hit people and hurt other slaves, and so she decided to help them. What about Booker T. Washington? Sounds good to me. I'll just give a brief rundown on Booker T. Washington. Since Booker T. Washington was born into slavery also, but freedom came to him while he was still very young. His struggle was in the center of education because he wasn't a slave. And if you know anything about colleges, it says that he was the first person to set up the institution called Tuskegee, Alabama. And it's a school in Tuskegee where people learn, and it became very, very popular. Of course, no bulletin board would be complete without Martin Luther King. You know about Martin Luther King?
Yes.
Didn't he just have a birthday?
Yes, he did. January 15th is King's birthday. King was born in Montgomery, Alabama, and he decided to help the people to learn all about their rights because they were black. And he felt that people needed to have equal access to everything, both black and white. He was a non-violent man, and people didn't like that. Also, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. Do you know what happened to King?
He was shot.
Right, he was assassinated for freedom and for rights for all people. Well, there's a lot of other great people you can learn about, national figures, but there are also people in your society right here in your own community that you can learn about. And I think you should go over to see Mrs. Scott and ask her about these people here in your own backyard.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Love.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye-bye.